everybody. I'm Wendy Murdoch, and this is Webinars with Wendy. I've been doing a series of webinars now for almost 3 years. We started in March 2020. This is webinar number, what did I say, 297, which is pretty incredible. My goal is 365, so there's one for every day of the year. I just want to let you know that this webinar is brought to you by the Hay Soaker. Are you tired of the drudgery and mess of soaking hay? The Hay Soaker makes soaking hay easy, convenient, and hassle-free. To learn more, go to thehaysoaker.com. That's the T-H-E, haysoaker.com to learn more. All right, so tonight my guest is Ida Hammer and 4 of her students, which is, this will be a really fun, or I already know it's going to be fun, different webinar because I've never had 5 panelists along with me. I will try to referee, but we already know that's going to be fun.
Yes.
So Ida, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and then kind of explain why we're doing this webinar this way.
I'm Ida. I'm the founder of the Mackinac Dale's 2 whole horse hoof care certification program, and I think most everybody knows my back history of all the trimming and stuff, but I wanted to do it with you this tonight because I have so many amazing trimmers. It's and I didn't think I'd get by with inviting 140 panelists. So I've just had so everybody, I think, so what I've seen with all of this stuff that's happening with the trimming horses and training people to trim horses and that stuff, not only do we get the satisfaction of helping horses, which is that's out of the world satisfaction, but for me it's watching each of these students grow. I'm from when they first and you'll hear their stories. They'll tell their stories about how they started and all that stuff, but when you watch them from the very beginning and they're scared to death to trim anything, and to where they're at now and the stuff that they're doing, I'm they just knock my socks off, and I'm just so proud of them. And it's, so I think it's it's an energy circle, because I'm you see them getting empowered, and then through their empowerment, I'm it empowers me. And then it just sounds it sounds crazy, but I'm but that's how it is. So,
well, the community, I think, is so important, and that's what you've formed, is a community of like-minded people that are all out there to help horses. And at the same time, because of that community, we can share our experiences.
Yeah, I'm it's very empowering. And so it's I just can't say enough good stuff. And so I'm very, very seldom am I at a loss for words, but
all right, so I think what we should do is have each of the other panelists introduce themselves just briefly, and then we'll probably have you guys tell us how you got involved with trimming and that sort of thing. But let's just start with basic introductions, and I think just for ease, we'll start in my upper left, which is Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm in Texas, in Central Texas. I don't remember what all I was supposed to say. I've been.
Who are you? You told us where you live.
Yeah.
And are you a full-time trimmer or part-time trimmer?
No. Originally, I was just supposed to be my own trimmer, which is, famous last words. I'm not going to trim anybody else's horses. I'm part-time, very part-time. I think I'm up to 5 or 6 client horses, and then I have 3 horses and a donkey of my own.
Okay. And you've been trimming for how long now?
Under Ida's guidance, I'm at 3 or 4 years. I think I'm at 4. I was trying to figure that out today, and I couldn't. And then I trimmed on my own for a while, but I was kind of like what you said earlier, where it's the self-taught school of trimming. But that went on for about 10 years before I found Ida. So.
Okay. So you've actually been trimming for about 13, 14 years.
Yeah, but not well.
It doesn't matter. It's you've had a knife in your hand, right?
Yeah, a lot of experience. Yeah. So.
Yep. I mean, I think that's part of it, but we'll get to that. All right, Nancy, you're up.
Yeah, so I'm Nancy Elzer Blaskin. I'm based out of Illinois, just south of Chicago. I am a full-time trimmer. I did not expect to be a full-time trimmer. Things kind of work out the way they're supposed to work out, I guess, and I'm grateful for what I get to do. So
excuse me, I was just letting somebody else into the webinar there.
Yep.
All right, Karen.
My name's Karen, and I got certified, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And basically to learn how to trim my own horses. And I love just digging in and doing research with Ida. We do a lot of different experiments with horses and different types of treatments. So it's been awesome.
Great. And so how long have you been trimming?
I think 5 or 6 years was when I got certified.
Okay.
2017.
Oh, there we go. All right, Just.
My name is Just Kibbe. I'm based in Asheville, North Carolina. I started trimming my own horse about 2.5 years ago and currently trim 130 or so. And
Wow.
I started doing goats and alpacas this past month.
All right. So, it sounds like the typical story is, and I'll tell you my story a little bit and see if parts of this don't seem to resonate. I had a little quarter horse named Andy, and he, one day the farrier came and he put shoes on him, and Andy was really lame, and Andy hobbled around for 6 weeks, and I couldn't get the farrier to come back. So I finally got somebody else to come back, and we pulled the nail. It turned out it was through the sole, and thank God the horse didn't abscess. But once that shoe came off, we couldn't really get another shoe on, and he lost that shoe. And that was when I was done. After dealing with other people doing my horse, I said, I'm doing him myself, even if I don't know what I'm doing. I was very fortunate because Dr. Joyce Harmon is where my horses live, and she oversaw my initial foray into trimming feet. And I have to tell you that he's been dead for I don't know how many years, so it's been a while. And I still struggle looking at the bottom of a foot, trying to figure out what to do with it. So I am definitely not as experienced as you guys, and I stick with my own horses. So how did you all like what's your story in terms of how you got started trimming horses? Was it because you had trouble with a horse, or what? How'd you get there? Who wants to?
Can I add something before we start that, Wendy?
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to preface like this whole get together is the part with like trimming horses or learning how to trim, because you don't have to trim horses to need to learn how to trim. Does that make sense? Because I think a lot of people so I put a little PowerPoint together about, can I bring that up quick? So just so it kind of guide us a little bit so that we're like
awesome. Okay, I didn't realize you. Okay, I'm gonna make you co-host.
Let's see, wait a minute, let me just so that it kind of is just a little bit from and then wait a minute, I did that too fast because I got to share the screen, but so that way we can just kind of have like I made an outline because it's like, and everybody that knows me knows that's unusual. So I'm
I was gonna say I did not expect that. Sorry.
I know.
That's why I was like, okay, well, how are we gonna do this?
I know. Yeah. So it's like, yeah. So what I did was, so like, this is the, and this is like a big bunch of our graduates, and Elizabeth wasn't in this one yet, but hopefully she will be in this year's. But so this is our part of our graduates, but this is our get together last year. So and so it's the empowerment. Wanted to do this for the empowerment through the eyes of the graduates. So it doesn't have to be that you're a full-time trimmer, like, and I say this to like all the people that we're reaching out to in the webinar, is you don't have to be a full-time trimmer, and you honestly don't even have to trim your horse to want to learn or need to learn how to trim your horse, because it's just empowerment. And so it's like the next part I kind of is like knowledge is power, and that's how you get empowered. So like this is kind of what I wanted to bring up for everybody, and then I'll shut up and let everybody talk. But I wanted to have some outline so it wasn't just like going, hey, you guys, start talking. So reasons why you should learn how to trim is like the anatomy. You should understand the anatomy of your horse's foot so that you can know if something's wrong. And so a lot of times if you don't know that stuff, if you haven't actually took hands-on classes to know that stuff, you don't always know what's wrong. And then And so then you should know how to trim, in case you had to touch your horse up in between trims, just to keep the horse in better condition. And so, can you guys see all the
Yep.
stuff that's up here? Okay. And like, and be able to pinch hit in case your trimmer gets injured or has shoulder surgery or something. So, no, so like, but, and if you have a horse business, I'm like, I asked Karen to come on here because like Karen does trim, but like she's has a horse business. So it's like, so she can tell us like, what is that like to be able to help with the horses that you're working with and the people that you're working with. And then like other reasons why you should learn how to trim, so you fall in love with it and become a complete hoof nerd and do it professionally. So, but and then and so then what I did is like, and you guys can do it however you want, but what I did is I'm like, I got a little picture of each of them and like, and when they graduated, and then they could tell us their story, but I'm like, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Look at that. I'm so impressed.
So Nancy, you're up, girl. So
Okay.
just tell us that.
Yeah, so you want to know how I got into trimming?
I think so
Well,
because, well, don't you think because like so many people are terrified of their horse's feet to touch them, and yet you all have wound up trimming your horse's feet and either like I just said, just doing that so that you understand it or doing that as a profession. And I think a lot of people are terrified to touch their horse's feet.
Mhm.
You know, so
Yeah.
it's like kind of like white coat syndrome, you know, I'm going to leave it to the professional to do. But I think part of this is about being able to trust yourself so that, you know, I love trusted hands hoof care, trust yourself to be able to learn how to recognize this and do this. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I started taking the classes prior. I mean, I took the time over a couple of years to take all of the classes. I've got a crazy friend that she's the one that talked me into it, and she's like, "Oh, girl, come on, we're gonna go and learn how to trim horses." I'm like, "No, we are not. I have Ida. I'm good with that. I'm fine with that." I relented and I'm like, you know what? I can learn something. I'm like, I will come to you to the beginner class and that'll be really great. And that's kind of where my journey started. And I was having some issues with a gelding that I had at the time, but Ida was already my trimmer at that point. So, you know, everybody's at that point, I was very happy with Ida. I thought everything was going really good. But, this one friend of mine that's like, no, we're going to do it ourselves. I'm like, okay. So, but yeah, it's become now my main source of income. And I will say, I was nervous about, starting on my own horses. And that's what I did for about 3.5 years before I took any clients. So, but I got in there and I didn't start with all the tools. I just had a rasp and just kind of went back to the notes that I took at the first class. And, I still had Ida coming to trim, one of my horse, it was a friend's horse. And then she was checking my work. And so in the end, it all worked out really well. And, you have to start somewhere. Everybody has to start somewhere. And I think that's the biggest thing is, I didn't know anything about feet trimming or anything, before this all got started. So
When did you start actually doing it professionally?
I think right around probably 2017, 2016, 2017.
2016, actually.
Again?
2016, actually. You
Oh,
graduated
okay.
in 2016.
That's
and
when I
you were already
graduated.
trimming.
So that's
Yeah.
probably about when I took my first client, was 2016 then.
So how many do you trim now, Nancy?
Um, well, I think I'm right around 450.
450 a month, 450 a what?
Total, a total number of horses that I trim. So per month, it kind of varies. Like in the summer, it's probably more than in the winter, but I'm probably doing 210 to 225. I try not to count.
So So it's become your business.
It is, yep, full-time.
And how did that feel to transition into actually having your own business?
Scary. I'll admit it. I had a full-time office job. I made really good money. And to be honest, that's what held me back from jumping in. You know, at the time, when I decided to go full-time, a number of circumstances happened, and it was either that or starve. So I already had a full boat though. At that point, I was doing basically 2 full-time jobs. I had my full-time office job, and then I was trimming every single night and every single weekend. I literally had no time off. So I should have transitioned sooner to going full-time, but when you have a full-time office job and you have time off and you have 401k and you have all these things, you think, well, I can't possibly have a business and do that just and be able to pay my bills and not have vacation time and sick time and so all those things. But again, kind of due to circumstances, it worked out,
It sounds like
the
it
best.
kind of evolved in that direction. It wasn't a sudden thing, but kind of just the way things progressed.
Yeah, for me, I honestly, I had a full-time business that I could have left my office job, and I let my business grow organically. I because I had a full-time job, I didn't have to hurry and get a bunch of clients. So a lot of my business came from word of mouth. It was, someone that used me and had other contacts, and it just kind of built from there. So
That is so awesome.
yeah.
So
All
is
right,
it, or is
Ida.
it not the
Go
best
ahead,
job in the
go
world?
ahead, Ida. What? Sorry, I talked
Or
over you.
is it not the best job in the world?
It was very stressful. It was very stressful. So to leave that it's been amazing. I'm happier now than I've ever been. So
Yeah, going from working for someone else to working for yourself. I did it a very long time ago, but when you're your own boss, it's the responsibility and keeping everything, all the balls in the air and everything going is a whole different deal. But the satisfaction, that it's you, and good or bad, it's you.
yeah, for sure. Yep.
Awesome. I'm gonna flip to the next one.
Okay,
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.
we'll be back. Don't go away.
Okay. Karen, I stole a picture off of Facebook. I was like looking for pictures of you guys. This is how she shot the last trimmer. No. Okay, Karen, you're up.
So I got started because I just felt like almost intuitively, I kind of knew things were wrong with some of my horses, but I didn't really know what. Ida was actually trimming someone else's horse at my farm, and I asked her to look at one or more of my horses, and that's where it all started. So kind of like Nancy, I thought, oh, I'll just take a beginner class because I wanted to learn not even necessarily how to trim my own horses, but I wanted to learn about the feet. No hoof, no horse. So I really wanted to know more about the feet. I have a boarding business, and so I'm responsible for 25 horses that aren't even mine. And when boarders come up to me and they're concerned because their horse is limping or they're off or something doesn't look right, I needed to be able to help them and tell them what I thought was wrong in my opinion. A lot of times my opinion is going to be why somebody calls a vet or calls a farrier. So it was super helpful as a boarding owner to be able to get that education and get completely certified and know what to look for. But something that a lot of people would not realize is when you go through IDA's classes and you do the whole certification program, you learn way more than just about the feet and how to trim. You learn about the whole entire horse. Just through conversations that come up in the classes and through Wendy's Surefoot and everything else, you start learning so much about their entire body. And so it's way more than the hoof. It's the whole horse. So again, even if you're just a horse owner, going through those classes will help you to recognize, where your horse is using its body improperly and how you can change the feet to change the body. So it's just been amazing.
So Karen, how do you actually trim horses at this point? You're running a barn. It's not like you have a lot of leftover time.
I don't trim clients' horses, no.
Do you do your own?
I don't.
So really I'm thinking about the points that Ida brought up. You're the example of just having more information and more understanding and knowledge about the feet, so that when you look at a
Yes.
horse, you have a better understanding of that whole horse and can help your customers, your boarders, your students be able to make better decisions, because they're not at the mercy of, like, I don't know. How many owners
Exactly.
don't know to look down?
Yeah. And I trimmed my own horses in the beginning, and then I even trimmed one of my boarders' horses, but just to stay practiced and do it. And then I've just been out for a couple of years for replacements of body parts. So Ida knows I'm very excited to get back into trimming my own. And, once in a while, like I had a boarder that had a hoof problem, and Ida had me, do something with this boarder's horse. So like, it is very handy too, to be able to jump in and rasp a little or nip a little or do whatever I need to do.
This might be a loaded
I
question.
did some
but how
Equicast on
difficult-
one, and
How difficult is it for you to look down at the feet of a horse that you have no control over?
you have more control than you think you do. So
Because I think so
there's
many times,
something,
yeah, people
you
look
mentioned
down.
it before, it's community. And so when you grow the right boarding barn and you have a community going, then pretty soon new people coming in start seeing what's going on. They're not dumb, right? So they'll be like, they'll see how well the horses move, or how good their feet look, or for the first time they'll see a glue-on shoe and they've never seen a glue-on shoe in their life. And they're like, wow, I didn't even know that you could not do metal shoes, so eventually they all seem to come around. We've never actually had a boarder that didn't convert over to barefoot trimming.
Wow, that's awesome.
I was just gonna say that because Karen doesn't tell people who has to trim their horses. It's like, it's not like they have the freedom of choice, but between the information that they get from her, and then another one of my graduates like trims there and works at the farm that Karen's at too. So between like just the information that's available to the people that come to board there, no one's ever like forced or coerced, but like they can't wait to get to visit and to learn these things. And it's like, it's really such a cool thing. And then I'd add also that Karen is such an advocate of sponsoring all the classes and stuff that go with it. It's like, so like we had your Surefoot clinic there because just all those kind of things. I'm like, we do anytime that we can have a clinic that furthers not just the hooves, but all the stuff with horses. I'm like, Karen opens her farm up to do that, and all that stuff, like actually it magnetizes people to actually want to know more about it. It's like, it's a kind of uncanny cool, really.
Well, I think it's really awesome because, it's, how do I say this? People are quick to judge, and not always is it the moment to tell somebody something. Like, if they don't feel supported and you tell them something, and then they just feel like they're being picked on. And I like, from my experience doing Surefoot, I'm not trimming horses, but I can't tell you how many times I look at a foot on a pad and I know that this owner doesn't know, or they would have done something, but you know, you can't just tell them everything at once, you'll kill them, right? They'll either leave or whatever. So, you know, having that tact, we talk about rider tact, but it's also, you know, professional tact to help people see things without alienating them. And I think that that's in the horse world, there's a lot of alienation as opposed to support. And
One other thing I wanted to add is, so we do
Ooh, she broke up. You broke up.
and still there?
Yep, you're better now.
We lost you for that whole
Better?
minute though.
But one thing you want to add is,
We do lessons and horse development here at the farm as well. And I encourage every single horse owner to at least go through part of IDA's certification, if not the whole thing, because a lot of times people will bring a horse to me and say, this horse has a behavior problem, and they don't, they have a pain problem.
right.
And a lot of times that pain's coming from the feet. So that's been real helpful too.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Karen. Let me see. Yeah, see who I put it next. Let's see. Just Kibby, sorry. I stole your pictures. It's like, so that picture there with the Justin, that Revitavet photonic light hat that he's got on. I think you got that through Karen, didn't you?
That was actually a Christmas present from my wife.
Oh,
Wow.
she might like you, huh?
Yeah, I like her too.
Well, and you have a cat, so you're okay. You're okay with me.
I think the cat has me. I learned, I knew I needed to learn how to trim. Probably my original reason wasn't as much about the feet. It was because I couldn't find a trimmer that I would trust to hold my horse. I couldn't find somebody that I was willing to hand my horse over to and know that he was going to be treated well. And so I was like, okay, then I need to learn how to do this on my own, because I can't find anybody else who will handle my horse in a way that I think is deserving of him. And I had no intention of doing it full time. And I fought kicking and screaming initially into it becoming my full-time job. And then even when it started to, I didn't really believe that it could be a full-time job. But it's the best job I've ever had in my life. Like the connection that I get to have with the horses and the opportunity to get to show them the respect and the care and the reverence that they deserve. Like it just makes every single day really, really fulfilling. Like if this was just like changing tires on a car, it wouldn't matter to me. It's the connection to the horse that matters, like that desire to want to hear them and listen to them and know what it is that they're trying to tell me and all the ways that I can try to figure it out. And so it just, I mean, yeah, we start with the feet, like that was the entry point, but then you learn so much more about like how to know what it is they're telling you. And I mean, that's why I continue to do it, is because I can be that for those horses, and I can be an example to the owners that there's a different way of interacting with their horses. There's a different way of hearing the behavior and learning from their behavior to know what it means and how they can strengthen their own connection with their horse through taking care of the feet.
So when did you first start trimming?
2.5 years ago.
Wow. And now it's your full-time job in 2.5 years.
It was a full-time job in 8 months. I went from trimming my own horse to having 100 plus in 8 months or less.
And how did your clients find you? I think that's the way I should put it.
Word of mouth. Like, I think I put one post up on Facebook announcing to the area that I was in the area. And from there, it was just other people telling other people that I was here. Like, there's definitely a trimmer shortage in the Asheville area. We could use another 2 of me here.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you next, is it sounds like where you're located, there really aren't a lot of choices. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's definitely correct. There's not.
Or not a lot of good choices. And the thing with the horse world is it's a small horse world. So Mike, if you're awesome at something, everybody will know. And if you're terrible at something, everybody will know. So
And he's not only kind, he's good looking.
What did she
Ada's
say?
singing. She said, Just is not only kind, but he's good looking. That's
Well, I
Ada
just
Just.
love this picture of you with this horse. The expression is
I've
nice.
watched Just trim several times and and the horses love him. Like that's a typical pose that you would see without anybody even him not knowing that you're even like looking at
So,
him.
the hoof story, that's my horse in the photo. And when I started trimming, he had thin soles. They were 5.5 millimeters thick. And I was clueless. I didn't know that that was his problem. And I came home from the beginner trim class and got x-rays done and found it out and was like, okay, now I got to trim my horse. And thank God I had protective wear for him, because the first 2 times I trimmed him, I made it worse. But I had boots. I had Easy Cares. I don't remember which pair I had, but I had something to put him in while he recovered, while I was learning to do it better. But he's been my leader. He's definitely, I mean, it started with the feet, and then there was a huge part of healing his gut that helped the feet another level. And now we're starting to get into biomechanics and helping his posture to improve things now that his feet feel better for him.
Yeah, because you develop bad habits. But you bring up a really good point, and I think you others can chime in, is you're not going to learn doing it all right all the time. The only way you learn is you've got to make some mistakes, and like practicing on your own horse first, because then it's your horse if you make the mistake. But I don't know anybody that's really learned anything and not, you have to kind of feel out where all the edges are. So sometimes it's too much this way, and sometimes, and that's just part of learning and what we have to learn from,
There's
just
only
gotta-
2 types of trimmers that don't make mistakes: those that don't trim and those that lie.
Yeah. Oh.
Because it's like not one of us, every one of us will lose sleep over making a horse sore, and it's just an oops sore. It's like we've trimmed it too short for that particular horse, but not in theory. And every single one of us will lose sleep over it every single time. But we would never learn anything if we didn't have those times. I'm like, if we did everything right all the time, I'm like, we wouldn't know anything.
Right. Or we wouldn't be doing a good job because we just think it was fun,
Mhm.
So I appreciate your honesty, Just, and well, you don't need to tell us what your job was, but what was your profession before you started trimming?
There were many. I ran a marketing company in LA, and I taught English at a community college.
Okay, yes, those are like different ends of the spectrum. That's awesome.
And this is the best out of all, right?
Oh, absolutely. I love getting to be outside. I love getting to be with the horses.
Yep.
Awesome.
I think
Cool.
that more people need vocations rather than the desk thing. I think we'd be better if we had
Yes.
more vocational jobs. Okay.
If you do love for a living, you never have to work another day in your life. You're laughing about that, Wendy. but
Well,
my
I'm
place-
laughing about that because I'm like, that is if you get to spend it all outside, but when you get it suspended at 8 hours in front of your computer, it's not as much fun.
Yeah, that's I would agree. If I have to spend 3 hours in front of my computer, I'm crabby. So okay, we better let Elizabeth talk.
She's been so patient.
She has been. Oh, and I just noticed my typo in your name too. It's like I did this at 5 o'clock this morning. Sorry. Like,
I also didn't know. That's fine. That's all good. So I got into trimming my own horses because I lost my good farrier. And first of all, it's hard to find a good one. And then I finally found a good one that I could trust. And then he had an old military injury that kept flaring up and he had to quit. And so I was super bummed. But he was nice enough to hand me his rasp and his stand. And he said, you can do this. You've watched me enough. You've had horses long enough. And I got by for about 10 years doing it by myself. And then I had a friend that I rode with who kept telling me she had this trimmer that was like telling her how the hoof connects to the rest of the body and all these things. And I just thought, I gotta go meet this person. Like, who is this trimmer that knows more than just feet, And so I went and watched her trim, and it turned out it was one of Ida's graduates, but I didn't know any of that yet. Her name's Trista. And so I just kind of filed away in my head this person that I'd met, which was a good thing because a few years later, I broke my arm falling off my horse and could not trim my horses for a while. And I happened to be at a barn where Trista was. So she was very generous and added my horses to her schedule, which I now know was tremendous because her schedule is crazy. And so of course, whenever she would trim my horses, I'm like right there, because my whole intent was her to trim them until I could trim again. And then, and she latched onto that pretty quick too. And she told me about Ida. And finally I went to take the beginner classes, and I really wanted just to trim my own, but I wanted to do it better and get them better. And I'm at the same time that I was trimming, I was also really getting into horsemanship. And so those two journeys have just gone together, which, they marry perfectly anyway. And so I loved the first time I met Ida and went to the first class. My mind was blown. It was blown by the sheer amount of information. But the other thing was, like you mentioned earlier, community, and the whole, like, there is a lot of people in the horse world that aren't very inviting and encouraging. And everybody in Ida's classes, like on day one, you feel like you are in a group that you were meant to be in. And it's the coolest thing ever. So totally got into that, was blown away by the other students and the grads. And then I remember, because my first class was at a vet clinic, and the vet was there sitting next to me the whole time. And I still think she's an amazing person. But I thought, wait, you're a vet and you're sitting in a hoof trimming class? And I just thought that was super cool. And of course, I wasn't ever planning to get certified or trim other horses. I still do not plan to do it full time. But
Never let you say plan. You're not planning. Not just a solid no.
Not right now, but I could see it happening at some point in the future. But I got to be careful saying that, because there's other tribe members that are going to latch onto that and start, the cool thing was, so I got back to doing my own horses. Trista was very sweet, let me shadow along with her on many, I would like to go more, but I don't have much time. But she let me learn a lot from her, and then she let me start trimming one of her horses. And then she kept saying, you need to pick up some more horses. And of course, I'm like, I don't know how to do it enough, and I'm not good enough, and I don't have time. And then there was two horses at the barn where I used to board. I knew the people, I knew the horses. I was like, okay, I probably can't hurt these guys, and they needed a trimmer. And so next month, that will be 2 years that I've been trimming them. So we're coming up on the end of the year. And then a couple months ago, I was out trimming those horses, and one of the staff at that barn saw me. And I was trimming, literally had stand, my tools, apron on. And she said, "Are you a trimmer?" And I was like, oh. Why? And I said, "What do you need?" Because I don't have a ton of time. And my big conflict is I like trimming, but I also need time to study with my horses and my horsemanship, and and I'm learning to rope and work cows and all this cool stuff. So, but I'm really glad I did meet her, because, so I took on her older Arabian, and most of the horses I trim, including mine, are seniors. And, so a few weeks back, she messages me and she says, "Hey, you want to take on another horse?" And I'm like, "No." Her horse. She got another horse. And I just trimmed him the other day for the first time. And this is so timely, this whole thing, because this whole thing about the empowerment. So you learn, your horse gets better, you get better at everything you do with your horse, not just their feet. You know, that's like Jess just said, that's the beginning. That's like hoof trimming is like a gateway drug to really cool horses. And so last Saturday I go out and I'm trimming the two older horses, and then this other girl's, she got this 5-year-old Arab gelding, which turns out is the youngest horse I've trimmed. I didn't think about that until I was doing it. So in all this time, I have another friend who has gone to Ida's class, learned to trim. She's ready to pick some up on her own. She doesn't think she is, but she came and shadowed me all day, and she watched me trim them. And we had the coolest day because she got to watch me with a new horse, and he's a little bit of a challenge, you know, so we had some good stuff going on. But the cool thing was, we get to the end of the day and she's like, I think I can do this. And I'm just like, yes, this is it. This is how it just all, you know, I just talking about this energy, and it's like this ripple effect, and it just keeps coming back to her and back to us and back to her. And that's the thing I like the most about all of it, is whether I ever do it full time or not, I don't know, but I just love how much more connected I feel with my horses. And I go to a lot of horsemanship clinics with well, not a lot, but 2 different horsemen that I ride with a lot. And every time I'm at a horsemanship clinic, every time somehow hooves come up, and I don't push a lot, you know, I don't say, oh, I'm a trimmer, so I know this and this and this. I don't say that at all. But every time, either because of the Versa glue-ons that my horses have on, or my flex boots, depending on what status, you know, what part we're in the trim cycle or what we're doing, you know, it comes up. And every time somebody asks a question and you get to teach and you get to share, and then somebody starts asking about classes, and and it's the thing. I just want to make this one more point, because I just love this about Ida. The thing I tell everybody when they ask me about it, I'm like, it's great to learn about hips. It's great to learn about your horse. It's so cool. But you got to meet Ida. Like Ida knows these people. And just getting to hang out with them. Like, I know all the other 3 grads on this program would agree with me. It is the culture. It's just, it's not just inviting and encouraging, but Ida's, you know, she's like experiment, try things, you know, ask questions. And even if you ask a question, you never feel dumb, you never feel stupid. And in fact, the other day on the Facebook page, I think Just was the one that posted something about a boot with a wedge in it. And I was like, oh, I'm trying that right now with one of my horses, you know? And it's just the coolest thing, because I think that's how we all get better. And that's how we all really and truly help our horses, is just constantly trying and learning. And so the empowerment is tremendous. And I still don't know that I'll ever trim full time, because that sounds so but then looking at you guys that are sitting here that have all transitioned to it, I'm like, maybe it's coming, and I've just got to be ready. But
You just don't know.
Right? I know. I mean, don't tell Christina Brogdon. She's already trying to get me to be full time, and Tristan and everybody. But it's also really cool, because like I just put in her little presentation, sometimes you need a pinch hit for somebody. And I've been able to do that a couple times, like go pull a shoe or something that I normally wouldn't be able to do. But because I've gone to classes, and because I've shadowed with Trista and learned a lot of things, I might not do it for a long time. And then, you know, somebody calls me, hey, can you just come and help me with this really quickly? And I'm like, yeah, I actually can do that. I know how to do it, you know, and so that feels good too. And then every horse you get to work with teaches you something new. Every horse teaches you something new. And that's the coolest part ever. So
Awesome.
You know,
Wait,
well, I just have to say, in listening to this, you know, I've done a lot of webinars, okay? And one of the things that I see running through the thread of all the webinars with the people that I've talked to is their curiosity, willingness to learn, willingness to explore. And I think the most important thing is the sense of safety within the community to share. And just the way we need to be with our horses, the horses need to feel safe first and foremost, because they can't learn in an unsafe environment. And we can't learn in an unsafe environment. And so, you know, I know when I teach, because my day job is teaching riding clinics, that's that's the first thing you have to establish, is that everything's okay. And was so interesting was at the pony club meeting, and this mother comes up to me and tells me about her daughter who has this trauma and has this problem and can't make eye contact and blah, blah, blah. And she wanted me to work with her. I'm like, fine. So the girl comes over, and I don't even look at her, and I just start having her do stuff. And I set up a sense of safety. Pretty soon I got my hands on her, like showing her body what to do. I got her on the anywhere saddle chair, and I'm moving her around and pushing, you know, making her stable and showing her where that balance point is. And so, you know, that's what I keep hearing from you guys, is the sense of a safe community where you can share. And this is so much where we're going. You know, I just got back from Hoof Summit. That was kind of the sense of community isn't like this sense of community. I just have to say that.
We have, I think, like, I am biased, but it's like, but we just have amazing people. I'm like, they're like-minded. Everybody wants to help the horses. And honestly, I'm like, I tease everybody all the time about how they're going to end up being full-time trimmers, but I really don't care if they trim like one horse, no horses. If they're out there doing anything or to connect with the horse, I'm like, that's one more horse that does not have to be connected with in a bad way. So I just, like, I have the best people.
Well, Ida, you nurture kindness and critical thinking like nobody else I've ever met. And those two things like make great people. Like, this community is phenomenal in terms of being able to ask a question when I would normally feel like this is something I should know how to do on my own. And I know 100% that I can ask anything to this group of trimmers and get supportive answers that are going to help me do my job better and are going to help me help these horses better than I can on my own. And I think that's what's empowering, like this community and the wealth of knowledge and experience that they have, as well as their own critical thinking that helps each of us do what we're doing in our own part of the world a little bit better. And it's so much easier to go out to a new client that I haven't met before when I know if I encounter something I don't know what to do with, I can reach out and find out how to do it.
Well, I think it's awesome because I'm like, it's reciprocated though, because everything you guys go out and learn and do, I'm like, you bring back. So it's like I learn from you, you learn from me. We just all keep growing together. I'm like, and like everybody's really free to share.
Yeah, let's just unshare your screen.
Okay. I get it.
Then everybody will be big again, because and
Okay.
so you know, just in terms of the empowerment, it like if you were to each of you were to sum up what the process of empowerment has been, or what is the most empowering thing that you've experienced in this process, maybe that's the way to ask the question. What would you say to somebody?
I would say
just shut
for
the crowd
me,
up.
I think it,
I would say the courage to try, because a lot of times people won't or don't even have the courage to try. And Ida makes it to where you're comfortable that way. And then the other thing is, one of the things she'll teach you is, you know, she's not going to let you hurt a horse. And like I didn't want to take on client horses because, like, what if I screw up? You know, of course, my poor horses are like, you've been screwing up forever. But, and that's what my friend now is saying, who is also another IDA student and plans to be a grad. And she's like, well, what if I screw up? And I was like, no, you can do this. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is it gives you the courage to try. And because if you're not willing to try, you, like we said earlier, you know, you can't do anything if you got to try to learn. So.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
So you guys have to answer Wendy's
Yeah.
question.
for me, it was really, the empowerment was just having that extra knowledge to know things so that I could sleep at night. Meaning, if you don't know, then you get anxious and you're worried and, oh, what if, you know, something's seriously wrong with this horse or whatever. You know, I grew up with horses and I had never even heard the word founder or laminitis. So I guess I was lucky because the horses we had if they went through that, we didn't know, which wouldn't have been very nice. But so, you know, there certainly wasn't the amount of education. And so that education that you can get now from across the world online is so empowering. It just helps you feel so much more confident, like Elizabeth said, more confident in your choices and your decisions that you're making with your own horses, and especially with clients' horses if you're trimming professionally.
Yeah, one of the things that I felt, you know, when I first started, I was, I think I was concerned about what other people would say about me. Like, how could she possibly learn this? How could she possibly start trimming and know anything? Having, you know, people behind me that, like Just said, there's things that I don't, you know, I didn't know off the top of my head, had to go back and research or had to reach out to the group. And having, you know, a group behind you is great. But then, you know, as your journey continues, believing in yourself, like believing, now I do know what I'm talking about. I have taken extra classes, you know, not outside of IDA, you know, there's a wealth of information and wonderful people that want you to learn and want you to know more and want to just give all of their knowledge to you. You know, and to be able to walk in somewhere and be like, no, I do understand. I do got this. You know, we can work around this, or, and again, if you get stumped, you got somebody behind you. So.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I think for me, it's been a personal growth journey too. My previous careers weren't about what I wanted or what really mattered to me. I was chasing after what other people thought. I was trying to do things to impress other people. And in the trimming and connecting with horses, I've learned that there's value in just being who I am and being with the horses, and that other people like appreciate that and like really appreciate it. So I think it's empowering to me to learn that I can be who I am, and to realize that who I am with the horses is as important as what I'm doing with their feet in terms of helping them be comfortable and be safe and develop into good companions for their humans.
That's well said.
So we've got a couple of comments over here. I'm just going to read them. So it says, I wish we had more professionals like you. I'm very lucky to have a great farrier who treats my horses with kindness and respect. In New England, it's hard to find professionals that care for the horse and not for the money. You know, and I have to say that I don't think I don't know that anybody gets into trimming or shoeing horses for the money alone. But it's a hard job, and there's, you know, it's a physical job. And so I think sometimes we don't appreciate, like Ida's just had second shoulder surgery, and how many of you guys have had, you know, it's a hard job, even on the best of days. And so I'm not sure that, I think you guys have gotten into it to sound corny, for the love of it. And it's really nice to make your living at something you love to do. So Diane said, people, especially women, have been told they can't do it, and having the permission, right? I just find it interesting that I'm sorry, but Just is like been doing this for 2 years and he's full-time already, and the rest of us are like, can I do this? Which is totally okay, right? It's totally okay. All right, Kathy says, I got into trimming my own horse back in 1968 because I didn't like the way the shoers were treating my mare. I was 14. My dad gave me some nippers, hoof knife, and a file, and a book from the Western Horseman. This is awesome. I was told I couldn't ride my horse without shoes, but I did. I wasn't the one who was hurting my horse. I took several courses after that and was delighted with the barefoot movement when the barefoot movement began. I rode endurance barefoot. I jumped, did dressage, chased cows, and climbed mountains all barefoot. We didn't have boots or the technology we have now, and I just love looking at the information that's available and learning more. Until I broke my hip a year and a half ago, I was trimming about 20 horses, and I helped the owners with nutrition and keeping the horses healthy as well. That's awesome, Kathy.
It is awesome.
Yeah, because, you know, not too many dads would give their daughters a pair of nippers.
That is awesome though. It's like that she stuck with it, because I don't know that anybody in our group really understands the word no or can't. It's like, you know, they're just like those speed bumps, but we just don't know those things. And
Yeah.
like honestly, you
Go
had
ahead.
said earlier, I'm like when people come to class and they introduce themselves and I always ask them, you know, why they start. I think I've only had one person that had came to class and said, I'm coming to do this to make money. And I told them that this class wasn't going to work for them.
Yeah.
Because if that's when if they come into the class and that's the first thing that they're there for, I'm not really interested, because you'll sell out the horse for money then. And so if you want to make living like doing what you love and make money doing it, that's different. But if you come to class and you're coming to class to, I'm like,
Have a
I want to make money doing this. I'm like, the animal loses. So I always tell them straight up, it's probably not the class for them, because sometimes like in the learning process, I'm like, we're going to lose money first until we know what we're doing. I'm like practice, you know, practice takes time and money. And so sometimes you lose a little bit before you actually gain. Right, guys?
So, you
Absolutely.
know, I want to ask you guys, when do you think things started to change in terms, what I'm trying to say is, there's been an evolution in the world of horses' feet that started somewhere out there. I mean, I personally remember that it started with Tony Gonzalez for me. And Tony, and I'm going to date myself now. That was back in the 80s. And Tony Gonzalez was a farrier that looked up and said the saddle is a problem and started talking about the saddle. And I went to to a workshop with him in 1988 when I came back from living in Australia for a year and stopped in LA. And that was that's a whole nother weird story in itself, because I was living in Australia for a year and then I showed up in LA. And I was not dressed like the rest of them. But you know, for me, that's when I saw back in the 87, 88 is when, you know, I credit Tony for me starting to learn about saddles, because he looked up and came, you know, but there's been such to me, there's a huge trajectory that's happened with our understanding, with the choices that we have. I mean, there was only the one easy boot with the metal that, you know, with the wires. Like, when did all this start to change?
I don't know that I could pinpoint it like to one time. It's like, when I started, I'm like, it's been a long time ago, but it's like, there was only one boot.
Yeah.
And there was not any women farriers hardly at all. And so like, it was, you know, and so just to get your foot in the door to even be able to work on feet. And it's like, and the proof is in the pudding. So it's like if somebody would give you a chance, then somebody else will see what happens. And I think I think piece by piece, it just happened like that, like not just like with the women trimming, but with, you know, because everything when I first started are like, oh, it's a fad. I'm like this, like, and when I first started, I called it barefoot trimming, but it's like, really, I'm like, it's not really barefoot trimming, it's whole horse trimming, because we need to do things to help the horses no matter what, as long as you're helping them progress, not regress or digress. So like you have to, that's it. Just, I think it's an evolutionary thing within each group of people that are doing anything. It's like the groups that I started with, like when I learned how to trim, it was all about natural trimming. I'm like being like the Mustangs. It had anything to do with anything else but making them like Mustangs. And some of that just didn't make any sense, because, you know, they can have bad feet too. They're just dinner for somebody. You know, they don't, you know, you don't see that. So I think it just takes time for everything to evolve.
But it's really, I mean, it's fascinating to me to see, like, you think about how long we've been shoeing horses, okay? And it really, it's only been in the last, let's say from the late 80s, that this evolution has happened. But look how much has changed in such a short period of time when we look at the total length of time that horses have been wearing metal shoes, right? It's a rapid upswing on the curve, and it's only building up steam.
I think some of it has to do with the internet, like the sharing, because I mean, we can share too much, but a lot of it is just the information, people making things more available. And I think because a lot of times, we're so isolated physically, but like Ida's class, like I know I have another friend now, I'm trying to get her to take Ida's classes. And I'm like, you can take the first 2 online. Like there's no reason not to know this now. Like, so I think that's a big part of it too, is just the availability of information.
Yeah.
Which can be overwhelming, but at the same time, if you will dive into it and work at it for a little bit, I think it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. And then there's always the, being able to discern the good information from the, like Dr. Google.
Yeah.
But it is.
I'm Dr. Google.
Oh, somebody said Tony was their farrier. The guy I first took a course from in 1975 was the first to say that he wouldn't put a shoe on a foot until the foot was healed instead of slapping a metal shoe on it. So 1975. So once they started doing barefoot around in the 80s in her area. So, but it is fascinating to me. And I think you probably are right that it is a result of the ability to share information, because it's exploding. Seriously, the variety, the type of shoes, we're in a very creative phase. I can remember when I first met Linda Tellington Jones in 1985, that team went through that same incredibly creative phase. And it's super fun to just watch that evolution happening at a rapid pace and sharing of ideas. It's awesome. You guys are awesome. Yeah. All right.
So-
well, we've come to the end of our hour. You want to say something, Ida?
I was just gonna say, so Mike, do you have something else that I think you guys are awesome. Thanks for like hanging out with us and doing this tonight. Cause I'm just so proud of them.
Well, it's really, I think the bottom line is the sense of a safe community where you can share information and you're never wrong. It's just something you don't know yet. And, that Dr. Feldenkrais, his work is so much the same in terms of, he never looked at something as broken. He just looked at it as that you needed more information.
Yeah.
And I just find that concept is present here in this group. So it's really awesome. Fits with me.
Yay, awesome.
Well, thank you guys for taking the time to join us. It's been really fun and it worked great. And like I said, it's a first having 6 panelists.
You didn't even have to referee us.
No, I didn't. Let's see. Somebody just sorry. Okay. So somebody's asking, do you have more females taking your class? I think you're 99% female, aren't you, Ida?
Probably pretty close. I think I'm like what? Oh, Ada's being goofy back there. So I think out of I have probably over 140 graduates now, and I would say I'd have to count for sure, but I'm like probably at least 120 are female. Like there's like it's definitely the majority.
Yeah, that's okay. We're going to change the world, and the guys that don't mind hanging out with us, they'll come along too.
I always say this, and I say this carefully because I don't mean anything disrespectful, but it's like, I think being an original, deemed as original man's job, and then so women are able to do this now, and we're doing well with it because we get along with the horses, and it's easier for us to bond with the horses as just a rule. And I think the guys that come into the class, I'm like, they're okay with leaving the traditionally styled brotherhood of farriers. And I'm not saying anything bad about any of those, but I think it takes a very progressive person to leave the brotherhood. I probably saying that all wrong. I don't know. But
Justin, I don't know if you want to chime in here. Feel free if you want to.
I've never fit in with the traditional brotherhood
Thank
I
God,
also
brother.
grew up on a dairy farm where my sisters did the same work that my brother and I did. Like we were all in the kitchen and we were all in the farm. And I've learned as much from women as I have from men. And most of the time, I get along better with women than I do men. Well, I get along better with horses than anybody.
Well, and I mean, we're seeing this change. Like I did the webinar talking about the state of large animal vets in the world. Actually, it's not just in the United States, but how there are more women going into that profession. But the problem is that the women don't stay in the profession as long due to family and pressures, whereas the men stayed longer. So things are shifting. We see more women as doctors, we see more women as veterinarians, but we're needing to kind of figure out where that balance is, because we just need more vets, and I'm sure we probably need more good farriers.
We need more good horse people, period. I'm like,
Yeah.
no matter what it is, it's like not even as horse people, but like animal people. We just need good, like kind animal people. It doesn't make any difference.
Well, and I think, like Just said, he grew up on a dairy farm, that it makes such a difference when your whole life is around animals and your livelihood is animals. You understand them from a different perspective, and that it's hard to come into the industry if, like with vets, if they don't have an animal background, that's kind of hard. So anyway, we'll just keep going forward, and I'm just thrilled that you guys are out there, and thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been fun. It's been really fun. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Wendy, thank you, Ida.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.